Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 348. This episode, as always, brought to you by our friends at Boost Mobile. This episode of What's Right with Nick Wright, just told you, brought to you by Boost Mobile. And straight to voicemail, which we'll get to in a moment, is also brought to you by Boost Mobile. A few programming notes. We're on today, on Monday, because I am doing First Things First, and then I'm flying to Las Vegas to broadcast the World Series of Poker Final Table. We will talk about that on the back end of the pod. I was up until 3:30 in the morning last night watching the live stream of the final table. I then finally had to wave the white flag. Got up at 7:30 this morning, and there was still 2.5 hours that I hadn't seen yet to get down to the final 9. So if you're a poker fan or a poker buff, we will recap some of that on the back end of today's pod. Also, Demonze not on today's pod, not because he was out partying for his birthday, but because as a washed 27-year-old, he decided he just needed to do his day job today, and he has Tuesday mornings off, doesn't have Monday mornings off, so he's at work at Fox right now, so I will carry us through the next 45 minutes or so. Speaking of, straight to voicemail, brought to you by Boost Mobile. Cooper Flagg, after an awesome second game of Summer League, struggled a bit in his first game, shut down for the rest of Summer League. Chelsea wins the FIFA Club World Cup, and then one of the most awkward, lingering trophy presentations with them and the president, and something that I was unaware of, but the producers just sent me the link to. Drake covered up his LeBron tattoo with an SGA tattoo. Listen, I am not going to get into the Drake-LeBron relationship. What I am going to get into is this. If I were in Drake's inner circle, which I'm not, and he's like, you know what, I got to cover up this Bron tattoo, I might say, hey, maybe not another NBA player. Maybe let's learn our lesson that getting tattoos of people you loosely have relationships with because they are fellow celebrities, and in this case also Canadian, that might one day lead to a triple cover-up. Because who's to say that in 6 years, Drake and Lil Yachty aren't going to get into a beef, and SGA is going to pick Lil Yachty's side. I'm just saying. All right, reminder, like, rate, subscribe, review. Free advice if you wanted it, Drake. Like, rate, subscribe, review to the YouTube channel, to the podcast feed on Spotify and iTunes. Watch this or like this on YouTube. All that stuff, we appreciate it. Okay, so the summer of LeBron continues a bit, and there was a very seemingly interesting article written by Ramona Shelburne and Brian Windhorst that kind of set off a lot of conversation over the weekend. And it dropped, I think, Friday morning. Yeah, we weren't on TV. And then there was a Dave McMenamin report, and then there was an article edit that I find the whole thing fascinating. So I'm not going to go through every single stanza of this article, but I am going to go through it considerably because I actually, in credit to Chris Broussard, who on our First Things First morning meeting just a moment ago, when we were talking about doing this topic, he was like, how much of the audience do you think has actually read the article? I was like, oh, that's a good point, Brew. So the beginning of this article is incredibly detailed about a May 3rd meeting at Craig's restaurant on Melrose in West Hollywood, a place I have been to, I think, once in my life with my buddy Colin Cowherd, and where Ramona and Wendy, and this feels like Ramona's side of it, they're just because of the LA-based reporting, but I don't know, detail a meeting between Luka, Pelinka, Redick, and Luka's manager, Laura Beth Seeger, where we find out what doors they went in, what wine they drank, all of this. And it's incredibly detailed, and it talks about that meeting. But that is not what people's takeaway or the thrust of the article is. because the article's headline even, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, inside the most delicate superstar transition in NBA history. So the reason for that scene setting, it would appear, is that Luka was at this meeting and LeBron was not, which I don't find odd at all, personally, because the Lakers' first order of business this summer, and they treated it as such, was to cement and secure their relationship with Luka because they desperately need him to sign a contract extension this summer. Now, whether that's a 4-year deal or a 3-year deal, he can do 4 for 230, 223, or 3 for 160. The reason for doing the 3 for 160, as the article lays out, is it might set up more money long term in future deals. But regardless, they need to make sure Luka's locked in, and they need to do everything possible to get Luka locked in. And if I were running the Lakers, I certainly wouldn't be like, well, anytime we're meeting with Luka, LeBron has to be there. Because these are the Lakers' attempt to compete this season is in one bucket. The Lakers' plan over the next 3, 5, 10 years is in another bucket. And both of those buckets necessitate a locked-in, dialed-in, committed Luka Doncic. So that is priority number one. And I think LeBron understands that the single most important thing for the Lakers this summer is to get Luka re-signed. So I wouldn't have viewed that as scandalous. Oh, the Lakers had a meeting with Luka without LeBron there. But it was treated like it was, in this article, like it was a fork in the road, where the Lakers are going down the Luka path rather than the LeBron path. And again, it is incredibly logical, and anybody that thinks LeBron is put off is bothered by the fact that the Lakers' priority number one is making sure Luka is a Laker long term, doesn't know LeBron James and doesn't understand the way he views Luka and what he understands about the NBA. Now, it is absolutely fair to say, and then I'll get back to the article, that LeBron feels like, all right, while trying to get Luka locked up long term, we should try to win right now because we were the 3 seed last year, because I'm still playing at a undeniable top 10 level. Luka is going to go into next year as one of the 3 biggest favorites to win league MVP. That's a team that, if you make the right moves, can compete for a championship. But those two things, not only are they not mutually exclusive, they are not in conflict at all. There is nothing better for Luka's long-term future with the Lakers than him stacking awesome seasons with the Lakers starting immediately. So then the article goes on to discuss, it talks about that LeBron released the statement. And again, I think the statement is worth, even though it's now a few weeks old, worth reminding people exactly what it said. We understand the difficulty in winning now while preparing for the future. This is from Rich Paul. We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every decision he has left count, and the Lakers understand that, are supportive, and want what's best for him. I looked at that statement as very clearly saying, listen, it would seem what's best for all parties is continuing this partnership and trying to win a title right now. But if you guys, for some reason or another, think that you either can't win a title right now, or making moves to try to win a title right now while you still have LeBron James at an all-NBA level is actually going to hurt your chances of winning multiple titles down the road with Luka. Well, if that's how you feel and that's the road you're going to take, then we should discuss whether or not you want me to be I want to be a part of this and you want to be a part of this. That to me was very, very straightforward. And again, not scandalous. And I think the way most people, if they were advising LeBron James, would see it as well. And then the article gets a little confusing because it then just quotes anonymous Western Conference executives on their opinions. One Western Conference executive chalked it up to an elaborate pout because the Lakers hadn't offered James a new contract extension. More on that in a moment. Another Western Conference executive felt it was an attempt to pressure the Lakers front office to go all in on building the team this season and away from its strategy to keep the cap sheet as clean as possible for the summers of 26 and 27 after James's salary comes off the books. So I care less about the Western Conference executives' feelings and more about if that is the Lakers' strategy, that we are certainly out of the LeBron business after this year, and we think we are going to be better positioned to win titles by getting out of the LeBron business and using his $52 million on free agents X, Y, and Z. That's an interesting opinion. I'm very curious what free agents they think they are going to get. And this is an important point here because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but free agency isn't what it once was in the NBA. And I'm not talking about second apron stuff. I'm talking about the fact that guys over the last decade have transitioned from letting contracts expire and hitting free agency to signing extensions as early as possible. And then, if they want to leave, simply demanding a trade. And the Lakers' plan of, well, we're just going to sign. I'm curious again who it is they think they're going to sign. Now, they're the Lakers. LeBron chose to save them after 6 years in the desert. LeBron then greatly helped them get Anthony Davis. And then Nico Harrison gifted them Luka Doncic that they were only able to get because they had Anthony Davis. But they don't have this cupboard of, when they traded for AD, they had multiple former number 2 overall picks and the number 4 pick of that draft they were able to include in that trade. That's not there. And I just don't see this, oh my goodness, Giannis is a free agent in a year, and if you have your cap sheet open, he'll pick LA. So it's curious to me, but a lot of the moves the Lakers have made are curious to me. And then there's this. The Lakers had made their statement in not offering James a contract beyond this season. It was abundantly clear that the 21-time All-Stars time as face of the Lakers had, for the first time, a planned end date, even if James's record-setting NBA career did not. And this is where the reporting gets interesting to me. Because this, to me, feels Ramona's incredibly plugged in with the Lakers, and for reasons I don't totally understand, and we've talked about, me not understanding it, Wendy and LeBron have had something of a falling out, it would appear. And so I think it's safe to say the info on this is Lakers info. And then Dave McMenamin, who is pretty plugged in with LeBron and said he's, was not quoting anonymous people close to him, was quoting Rich Paul directly. Dave McMenamin then reports during Summer League 2 days later, oh, by the way, look, we didn't ask for nor want a contract extension. And then there is the other reporting, which is, to me, interesting, because the article initially said that when the Buss family agreed to sell a majority stake in the franchise, Mark Walter, on June 18th, Doncic was given a heads up and notably posted congratulations on social media. LeBron James was given no heads up. The article was then edited, and it writes, now, after the publication of this article, sources said James was notified of the sale via his representation, but he did not post any public acknowledgement. And then it has the part, then of course the coup de grace, the Lakers, by not offering James an extension, indicated they were comfortable having him on the roster's expiring contract, a rare position for a superstar player of his caliber. So I don't, there are pretty clearly at this point, it is a less than happy marriage. And it's for reasons, and this is the part that I've spent a good deal of time thinking about, but I just can't totally understand why. And you might say, LeBron's doing this. But here is, to me, a fair, and LeBron is obviously doing a lot of this, but is there reason for it? Are there reasons for the Lakers doing what they're doing? So let's just go through the blow by blow of it. Is there a reason to believe that LeBron is not okay taking on a secondary role within the organization? Not that I've seen. What I saw was, for 4 years, LeBron all but begging Anthony Davis to take the car keys, and AD, God love him, future Hall of Famer, great player, couldn't quite do it and wasn't willing to do it. They then trade for Luka. LeBron correctly does not ask Luka to change his game at all. LeBron changes his game massively, and all of a sudden turns into maybe the Lakers' best defensive player, is far and away their best defensive player and arguably their best overall player in the postseason, and greatly changes the way he's playing, while doing nothing but support Luka, who famously, LeBron's on the record that the only guy he ever tried or wanted to get to be a LeBron athlete, wearing like the way Jordan has Jordan athletes at Nike, a LeBron spin-off sneaker, was Luka. A guy who modeled his game after LeBron and was his childhood idol. So the idea that, well, these guys just won't fit, that has not been the case at all. And then there is well, we just don't think we can compete with these guys. I think that is a loser mentality. And I think it is beyond optimistic that, again, if you simply remove the name and the age when talking about LeBron and say, hey, what is the likelihood over the next 4 years if the Lakers were to move on from LeBron, and this article talks about they don't want to trade him. They want him to just leave in the offseason, either into retirement or free agency for nothing. Who is the guy? How are they replacing second-team All-NBA production? Where is that coming from? And why would they not say right now, this moment, we have something, an asset we're not going to have, we're not guaranteed to have it all 3 years from now, which is 2 top 10 players. So maximize this window. I think that's foolish. But I also, if I were running the Lakers, wouldn't go 3 straight off seasons without making a single trade. If I were running the Lakers, there are a lot of things I would not have done that Rob Pelinka and the Buss and Rambis family have done, but that's what they've done. And so I do, and I know this for a lot of you guys is not going to be surprising coming from me, but I do understand LeBron's side of the frustration. I don't understand the Lakers' side of the frustration. And if it's that, well, you know, LeBron's a lot to deal with. Yeah, man. Every all-time great athlete ever is a lot to deal with in one way, shape, or form. And people keep saying nothing tougher than dealing with an all-time great who's not great anymore. And that's the part of this that I find so puzzling. It's almost as if the Lakers are frustrated that LeBron hasn't fallen off. LeBron, the Lakers post-Westbrook debacle, which obviously LeBron had influence on, have treated every year as if, well, LeBron's not going to be that good. And therefore, it wouldn't make sense for us to leverage everything to try to win at this moment. And then each year, LeBron shows up on the All-NBA team. Each year, LeBron comes to work and gives you 25, 7, and 7. It's like, okay, what do you need? And now, like, I understand why LeBron might say, you know, I don't want to sign an extension because maybe I do want to hit free agency and then in my final year go back home to Cleveland or maybe find a way to play with Steph. And under the new CBA, me making $50 million doesn't make a lot of sense. And next year, there could be teams with some cap space more than the minimum that I wouldn't mind going to play for. I understand why LeBron might say, I don't want the extension. I don't understand why the Lakers wouldn't say, hey, you want to tack one more year on this? So, a lot of this is just, to me, more evidence that when the Walter family does come and take over and they do a true audit of the decisions and decision makers, that the people in charge of the Lakers should be anxious. And I understand that all the reporting is Jeannie Buss going to run the team for the next 5 years. Let's check back in 4 or in 3 and see who's running the Los Angeles Lakers. And let's also check back in 4 or 3 and see if this cap space of 2027 played out the way they hoped it would. But I cannot imagine this article landed softly on LeBron's desk, where it is a lot of innuendo and a lot of Lakers, pretty naked Lakers personnel whispering in the ears of Ramona and Wendy about essentially how eager they are to get out of the LeBron James business. Me personally, if I'm trying to win NBA championships, I'd love having 2 top 10 guys on my team. It doesn't seem like the Lakers necessarily feel that same way. All right, folks, something special is about to happen in the Big Easy, one of my 5 favorite cities in the country. UFC 318 coming to New Orleans, and it is absolutely stacked. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC, has all the action you need. We're talking Holloway Poirier 3, the trilogy, BMF's titles on the line. More than that, it's Dustin Poirier's last fight. That's it, the final walk. One of the all-time greats. You taking Holloway's volume or Poirier's power? If you've never bet UFC with DraftKings, don't worry. Just pick something simple, like a fighter to win, and make your pick. Straightforward and easy. Like I told you last week with the boxing, it's, again, I'm not acting like picking the right side is easy, but it is. You don't have to be an expert on rear naked chokes to know I got to pick a winner here. And you can do it that way. Check this out. New customers who bet just $5 get $150 in bonus bets instantly. A huge boost to get started. Do not miss Poirier's final fight. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use code WRIGHT. That's code WRIGHT for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, the other piece of this is Luka going to sign this extension? And my answer to that question 3 weeks ago would have been, obviously. The Lakers have built-in inherent advantages. They now have one of the richest ownership groups in the league. Luka really likes being by the ocean. He said as much. I would imagine for international players, big cities are always preferable because you're more likely to have a real community of Slovenians. And again, I don't know how much Luka cares about that, but it's obviously easier to find a thriving, Slovenian or Serbian or Nigerian or any international community in a place like New York or LA than it might be in Milwaukee or Cleveland. And that, again, that's not a indictment on any of those places. That's just the reality of geographics and demographics. Or not geographics, but demographics. So I would have said and Luka's statement about being excited to win championships with the Lakers and Mark Walter and all of that, I would have said the odds of him signing extension this summer were like 95%. I think the way the Lakers screwed up the Dorian Finney-Smith thing is potentially troubling. And I think the way the Lakers are not so subtly dissing LeBron James, who, again, as a reminder, the Lakers were in the midst of the worst 6-year stretch they had in the history of their franchise, in the total wilderness, a bottom 2 record in the entire NBA over the half decade before LeBron got there. Within 2 years, within 1 year, he delivered them Anthony Davis. Within 2 years, he and AD delivered them a championship. And then because they had AD, they were able to get Luka Doncic. And he's still performing at a 6th in the league in MVP voting level. For them to, Luka's not an idiot, now be leaking stuff to ESPN about how excited they are to be done with LeBron. I can't imagine Luka's happy about that. And again, the Dorian Finney-Smith thing really matters because of the relationship he had with Luka. And the fact that the team gets a touch worse going from Dorian Finney-Smith to Jake LaRavia. So, I I would have said it's 95% that Luka will re-sign this summer. I now will say it is 75%. I still think it is overwhelmingly likely, but I would say it is not a lock. And I would have thought it was a lock before. So I think that is, and I know that, so let me, because the producers just asked me if I don't see him signing with the Lakers, where would I see him going? So let me just take a quick look at right now who is slated to have cap space next offseason. And the answer is, once again, not many teams. Brooklyn, again, is slated to have some, and then everyone else is in the negative. But you, of course, I haven't really dove in to who has the most flexibility and the ability to create cap space or move off guys, things like that. Obviously, Daniel would be thrilled with this. I think there's a lot of folks that have wanted to see Luka and Joker together. I think that is probably easier said than done. And I also think it's kind of a weird fit because Joker has, Joker is their point guard and Luka is the point guard. There is the thing that I would think would utterly and thoroughly terrify the entire league. And that is Luka going to San Antonio, which San Antonio, I think, if they wanted it, would have a ton of cap space next year. Wemby hadn't been paid yet. Fox is on an expiring. Barnes is on an expiring. And so they could flat out just afford him. And so let me just sort by what would be active cap next year. Yeah, so that was the better way to look at it. Chicago is not, to me, a likely destination. And there's so let me look at this again. Hold on, sorry. I'm trying to figure out for the teams that will, practically have cap space. And so again, I think Luka resigns. But the fact that we're even having this conversation, if I were the Lakers, I would be a little anxious about it. And again, we're not going to find out for a while because he can't sign the extension until August 2nd. But because he's playing Eurobasket with Slovenia, fat, lazy Luka Doncic, who all he does every summer is just play basketball, he might not, he's probably not going to do anything until the Eurobasket's done. All right, I do want to talk about what Kevin Durant said last weekend, but first, let me remind you guys that this is a message that applies to 99% of you listening right now, because that's how many of you can be covered by fast and reliable service on the Boost mobile network with 99% nationwide coverage. And if you don't think you deserve a deal, listen up. You've got another thing coming. Right now, when you switch to Boost Mobile, you can get iPhone 15 with Dynamic Island and a 48-megapixel main camera for $99.99. That's $99.99 for iPhone 15 on a nationwide 5 5G network. This may only apply to 99% of you, but I am 100% positive Boost Mobile just gave all of us a really freaking good deal. In-store credit, $35 device setup fee may apply, requires credit qualification, ID verification, and activation on a $6 plan. Taxes extra, 5G speeds not available in all areas. All right. This I meant to talk about last week, and I screwed up and I forgot. But Kevin Durant was on Mind the Game with Steve Nash and LeBron. And he was talking about longevity. And, well, we can just play it for you, courtesy of our friends at Mind the Game. By the way, I have not asked, and I don't know if the producers have asked if we can play this, but I know some of the people at Uninterrupted. I think we'll be okay. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in. I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships. Like, but do I still want to do this shit? You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
Right?
Yeah. And then I want to come back. Or some people say, I'm going to go 22 straight.
So I didn't want to step on that. I couldn't hear that. I've obviously heard it, so I don't have to hear it. Can we just check the live chat to make sure, and you guys can tell me in the doc that played to where people could hear it. If I just didn't hear it, that's fine. But as long as the audience could hear it. But one of the lines in there is, some people say, I want to go play baseball, and some want to play 22 straight. And I don't think this is a controversial or hot take, guys. And yet, somehow, and this is one of my, and if you think about this, it really will, maybe reframe how you view some of the LeBron Jordan stuff, which is, so of the myths that exist in NBA history, the vast majority of them serve one or two purposes. Either tearing down LeBron or building up Michael. So, like, in no particular order, I think here's a myth that just everyone believes. Man, the 1980s were just the peak of NBA physicality and tough defense. When in reality, up until the 2020s, the 1980s were the highest scoring decade of post-60s NBA basketball. Now, there were more flagrant type fouls, but it was running gun, high scoring era. Another one, on the flip side of that is, like, one of the most just up is down, black is white myths is, LeBron, great player, not that clutch. When he has more playoff game winners, regular season game winners, all of that at a higher efficiency than any other superstar ever. Just on its face, incorrect facts. And the Michael Jordan quit the sport because of the tragic murder of his father, and therefore it's almost a third rail to discuss him walking away, is just a myth. And the reason I know that, and the reason you guys know that, is because Michael and Ahmad Rashad told us in The Last Dance, if there was ever any question, that, I don't know which episode of The Last Dance, but where Ahmad said, Michael was telling me essentially for months that he was going to walk away. And now, if you believe, as I think is a totally legitimate belief, that Michael looked at it as, I beat the game. I did something no one's done since Russell's Celtics. I have nothing left to do here. I'm not enjoying this scrutiny and this and all of it. And then if he was, on the edge, the tragic murder of his father was like, all right, I need a fresh start on everything. And then it is even like so wildly impressive that he came back and after half a season where they couldn't get it done, he then rips off another three-peat, and that is part of his absolute legend. That's totally fair. Well, I shouldn't even just say it's fair. That's my opinion. I think that is a remarkable feat. But the number of people that think what Durant said was a hot take rather than an objective fact that is how we would evaluate literally anyone in any field ever, which is you certainly don't get extra credit for quitting the thing that we are grading you on. And Kevin Durant's point, not only was it not a hot take, it is damn near a tautology, which is if we are discussing the greatest career or greatest player in the history of the NBA, and we say, well, one guy after a little more than 10 seasons, after a dozen seasons, said, okay, this is not even a dozen seasons. My apologies. I'm going to step away now after 10 seasons, pardon me, and then quit the game and then came back a year and a half later, that year and a half certainly doesn't help his basketball career because there was no basketball career. And that if, at least in the consistent year after year after year excellence, the guy who never stepped away and played at a top one level as long as any player in the history of the league has, a top 3 level longer than any player in the history of the league has, and a top 5 level twice as long as any player in the history of the league has, that's at least a check mark in that guy's column. Now, is that the whole column? No. Is that the only thing that matters? Of course not. But is that obviously true? Yes. And people saw it and were like, oh my God, LeBron's brainwashed another one. As opposed to, what are you guys talking about? If Patrick Mahomes quit this offseason to go play baseball and 2 years later came back and was awesome again, we certainly wouldn't say that time off helped his quest to catch Brady. And that's all KD was saying. But because there's been so much mythology associated with this person and this career, things that are just obvious in literally any other Mad Lib style, remove the proper nouns and say, in Nick Wright's quest to be an all-time broadcaster, did the 2 years he took off to go try to be a professional poker player before returning to his broadcast career, those 2 years, did that help or hurt his quest to be an all-time broadcaster? We'd be like, well, they certainly didn't help. Probably hurt. And so it was very informative to me the way people got angry at that take when it's the most obvious take anyone's ever had. That being excellent at something for a span of time with no break and no years you weren't excellent, that is a different type of accomplishment than being excellent, taking a year and a half off from it, being excellent, taking 3 years off from it, than being okay. Like, that's just obvious. So, another take of KD's I agree with. How about that? Unbelievable. By the way, summer's coming in hot. Literally. There's one thing I'm not messing around with this summer. It's deodorant. Mando deodorant, sweat control, built for this season. Blocks odor all day, controls sweat too. And that can be good, actually, while I'm doing the pod. Like, we're going to talk about all these different things you can do when you're sweating. But this room in my house, actually, sometimes, especially in the summer, can get very hot. Sometimes you guys see it. I'm sweating over it. So Mando's helping out. So whether I'm doing the pod or grilling in 90 degrees or heading to a baseball game like I did yesterday with Danny Parkins and his wonderful son Owen, or going for a run, Mando keeps you fresh all and dry all day. It's one of the worst feelings when you realize, wait, does that smell me? With Mando, zero concerns, because you know you'll smell great and it'll last all day. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, because let's be honest, some of y'all are probably a little stinky, new customers get 20% off site-wide with exclusive code. Use code RIGHT at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. If you missed it the first time, let me tell you once more, especially because this is our first partnership with Mando. Special offer for listeners. New customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code RIGHT at shopmando.com for 20% off plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. That stuff really does help. So if you're just thinking about buying deodorant, try out our friends at Mando. Use code RIGHT. Helps out a ton. Mando's got you covered. Perfect for your pits. Smell great doing it. All right. I want to talk a little WNBA here, and then we'll probably get to some World Series of Poker and then listener questions. So Caitlin and Paige played in their first pro matchup yesterday. Caitlin has not been playing great since returning from her quad injury last night. She was decent in that game, and Paige is spectacular. So that has been and Paige is, again, Paige was supposed to be Caitlin before Caitlin. Very different personalities and very different player types, but this superstar transcendent guard talent probably, doesn't hurt their white girls in the marketability piece of it for big portions has been a huge discussion point surrounding Caitlin, but Caitlin's general excellence and the fact that she plays like Steph Curry is what really makes her as marketable as she is, far more than her race. But sidebar to any of that. But then Paige blew her knee out and it kind of got stalled a bit. We were kind of deprived of an unbelievable Final Four finish a couple years ago when they called that, off-ball foul or whatever it was when it was UConn, Indiana. But Paige is going to be a superstar. And Caitlin, despite this little dip, is a superstar. But I want to talk about, for a moment here, the young lady who was assigned to be Caitlin's rival because of the college history between them and because of some really bad actors on both sides of this. And I never both sides anything, but there are some really bad actors on both sides of the Angel Reese Caitlin Clark thing. And no, I'm not going to talk about the meme that no one saw until one person tweeted it. I want to talk about Angel because I said a month ago, or maybe longer, that if Angel and Caitlin are going to be a rivalry, Angel's got to hold up her end and play better. And that Angel's celebrity was outpacing her productivity, and that at the time, she was a very, very famous rebounder. Well, for the better part of the last month, it's clicked in for Angel Reese. June 24th, I don't need to tell you the dates, but dating back to June 24th. In a win against the Sparks, 18, 17, 6, and 4, and this is important, on 50% from the field and 86% from the line. The next game against the Valkyrie, 17 and 18 on 44% from the field, 100% from the line. The next game against the Sparks, 24, 16, 7, 1, and 2 on 53% from the line and from the field, and 100% from the line. The next game against maybe the best team in the league, Minnesota, 16, 17, and 6 on 44% from the field, 100% from the line. The next game against the Mystics, 22, 15, and 4 on 56% from the field and 12 of 15 from the line to 80%. The next game against Dallas, 15 and 11 on 60% from the field and the line. And the next game against Minnesota again, 19, 11, 4, and 2 on 57% from the field, 75% from the line. Angel Reese is making her bunnies. And Angel Reese is playing efficient basketball, which makes Angel Reese, because of her impact on the game, defensively and on the glass, and her underrated passing, the way she's been playing the last month, she's top 15 player in the league. And that's awesome. Because it was weird for a player who I think was number 2 recruit in her class, to Paige. And I think it was to Paige. A player who was pre-Caitlin and all of that, unanimous first team All-American, and one of the best players in the country. It was odd to me that her sophomore season didn't pop. And now it's popping. And now all of a sudden, it is the Sky are a team that, again, the WNBA's weird is the wrong word, but it's different because there's so few teams that you really do have the ability to pull yourself to find a way into the playoffs, so to speak, that you otherwise might not. Because 8 make it, and there's only 15 teams in the league. 4 are going to make it out of the East. Right now, the Sky are in 5th, and they're a ways back. They're 3.5 back. But if the Mystics, who are playing really well right now, trip up, the Sky could catch them. And I have really tried to, on this show at least, when we talk about basketball, to talk about basketball. And it is really nice to see Angel Reese, despite all of the noise around her, to be playing the best basketball she's played as a pro. It's been great. All right, very quick tennis corner. I obviously was very bummed that Alcaraz didn't win Wimbledon. Yannick Sinner, good for him. avenging his French Open loss. The producers are asking, does Sinner Alcaraz have the potential to be an all-time rivalry? And the answer to that question is no. Listen, Sinner is really good, and he's also, like Alcaraz, young. I think it is. Here's why my answer is no. I think we were spoiled by the Big Three era. And because of the Big Three era, of these all-time historic legends playing simultaneously, that we expect that to happen again. I think Alcaraz is that all-time historic legend level. Listen, Sinner's young and he's got 4 majors. So maybe I am selling him a bit short. But I think he is a tier beneath where Alcaraz is going to be. I think he's probably closer to the Agassi tier than the Joker, Federer, Nadal tier when it's all said and done. And I think Alcaraz is closer to the Joker, Federer, Nadal tier than the Agassi tier. Now, again, maybe I'm being unfair to Sinner. He's only 23, 24. He's now in the last 2 years won 4 majors and final to French. That's the only reason he doesn't have the career Grand Slam. But I'll still be I just don't know that Carlos is going to have a true one-for-one rival. All right, before we get to the listener questions, World Series of Poker. A lot of legitimate controversies, Kasuf and one chip stalling and all this stuff. I'm going to talk about a lot of that on the broadcast. And I don't know how much this audience cares about that. And if you do care about it, you'll get it on the broadcast, and maybe I'll do it on Thursday a bit. I do want to talk about this final table, however, because the final table is set. And the story is, for the first time in more than 30 years, there is a woman at the final table. She was the last woman standing at the World Series main event 16 years ago. She is from Spain. She is absolutely delightful. Her name is Leo Margetts. She is dead even in chips with 54 million. And her winning this tournament would be the greatest thing to happen to poker since Chris Moneymaker won the tournament. And it's in play. She absolutely can win. She yesterday twice, got her money in on coin flips, which you have to do. That's not an indictment at all. You have to do that in this tournament multiple times. But the reason it's noteworthy is both times she got out flopped, and then both times hit runner in to win the coin flip. So it's twice she has had it in, pair versus 2 overcards or 2 overcards versus the pair, and gotten cracked on the flop to where it looked like she was dead, and then hit perfect or something close to it to stay alive, which has been amazing theater. She would be unbelievable if she won this thing, and it's already unbelievable that she's this far. I think she has to get to 4th to be the best finish ever for a woman in the main event. I think she already has locked up the most money any woman's ever made in the main event. The other story, obviously, is Michael Mizrachi, who won the most prestigious tournament of the summer, the 50K Poker Players Championship, for the 4th time. And this is an old school gambler, literally has an ace tattooed up his sleeve, has a roulette stuff tattooed on him, does not do the GTO stuff, talks, gambles, drinks at the table. It's awesome. It's also unbelievable that he 4 times has won the most prestigious tournament at the World Series and now is second in chips at 93 million. When early yesterday, he got it all in, ace jack versus ace queen, lost, and was down to 3 big blinds. And to now have more than 50 to be in second, to build it up from there and have a chance to go 50K PPC and 10,000 player entry main event, it would arguably be the single greatest summer in the history of the World Series of Poker. The other folks at the table of note, John Wozniak, who's just an amateur player, a family man, incredibly likable. He is the chip leader with 108 million. Watching him yesterday was unbelievable. He played incredibly tight, picked his spots, kept getting it in good, kept winning. There was also a moment where he had ace king. It was so fascinating. It was someone 3-bet with ace queen. He 4-bet with ace king. Pocket jacks then folded. Ace queen called it off. It came all low cards. Had pocket jacks called, ace queen would have folded for sure. And Wozniak would have been out in like 13th place. And I forget who it was with jacks. I think it's the guy who came in 10th. Would have had huge chips. Instead, jacks fold. Ace queen gets it in. He's out. Wozniak now ends up spinning up to 108 million. There's a bunch of other great players, and then there is the guy I bet on, who oddly, and I found this out yesterday, there is out there in the universe, producers, if you guys can check on eBay. This might be a good investment. The one of one, I think, is on eBay. There is a poker trading card signed by 3 people. One of them is me, and the other one is Adam Hendricks, who is 7th right now in chips. He is, in my opinion, either the best or the second best player left in the field. And he has 48 million, which is plenty. I think it's 30 bigs. And he was my bet to win it. I bet yesterday, going into day 8, with a friend, I told them they could have the chip. People asked me because I tweeted about this. What odds did I get? I didn't get odds. There was 25 people left. What I said was to my little gambling consortium, if anyone wants the chip leader, who at the time was Kenny Hollert, who's still in it, by the way, he's 4th in chips with 80 million. I'll take Adam Hendricks even money. And seemingly I was getting the bad side of that because Hollert was the chip leader, but I think Hendricks can win. But right now, got to be rooting for Leo and for the grinder. So I fly out there tonight. It will be absolutely thrilling. The one you guys are putting in the chat is the one of 4, or I think on there is a 1 of 1 autograph. Maybe it's my 1 of 1. Whatever it is, I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. But it's just, if this guy ships the main, I just think you guys should maybe buy, the 1 of 1 that's up there for me does not have Adam Hendricks on it. I'm just telling you, I think those Adam Hendricks signed cards could be worth something. That's all. All right. I appreciate everyone for listening. Evan asked, would I ever do a top 20 tennis players ever like your top 50 basketball? Probably not quite enough of definitely not enough of an expert on that to really do that list justice. Dave asked, is this actually live or pre-recorded? No, this is actually live. We tell you if it's pre-recorded, but this is actually live. The producers ask, Uno is coming to Vegas, kinda. Which board games would you win the most money playing? I don't know about which board game, but I'll play high dollar dominoes against anybody. I'll do that. I would like to say I would play high dollar spades, but that's so partner dependent. But the reality is, I'm good at those types of games. If you just, I just need to know the rules and watch it played once, and I'm pretty good at that stuff. Demonze's great at Monopoly, and I've considered staking him in some real money, semi-high stakes Monopoly games. I might do that one day. All right. Like, rate, subscribe, review. I'm headed to Vegas. We'll be back on Thursday. Thank you to Mando. Thank you to DraftKings. Thank you to The Volume. Thank you. Gosh, so many people we got to thank. Thanks, my friends at Blue Duck. Thanks to our friends at Boost Mobile. Thank you to all of you guys more than anything. Poker Go to watch the World Series main event final tale will be on the call, and FS1 to watch us all back on TV. Regular 2-hour show today, 3 to 5. See you guys there. What's right?